All right, guys. So, top 5 listing secrets, how to sell your listings and impress sellers. I'm going to unlock the vault today and give you as much as I can in the next 52 minutes. If you have not yet answered the poll question, go ahead and answer it or answer it in the chat. It looks like most of you found it, 82% of you. Please try to find those poll questions. It makes it easier for me to give credit for the classes. I'll go ahead and end this poll, share the results just so you can see how that looks. And guess what? I have a slideshow to share with you. So we're going to do PowerPoint. Everyone loves a good PowerPoint, right? Top 5 listing secrets. By the way, guys, here's our little disclaimer. Are you tired of these yet? So I'm going to launch a poll question about this, but listen, we're talking about listings and we all can charge differently for our services. I mean, you literally could charge hourly if you want to. So in our classes and any online platforms where you guys participate, even Facebook groups or, LinkedIn or wherever, you should not be talking about specifics regarding how you charge, what you charge. So I'm going to launch this poll real quick. Oh, sorry, hang on one second. Okay, so true or false, we should not discuss or exchange information about our policies regarding specific commission amounts or structures outside our brokerages and or teams. This is true, so I'm giving you the answer to the poll. But please, if you do end up wanting to interject a comment about commissions, just say X. That's my simple solution. I know some people have said, well, just say bananas instead of percentages. Don't like that because everyone knows what you mean, right? So don't say bananas, just say X. X could be anything. It could be a dollar amount, a percentage. It could be kisses. Maybe you get paid in kisses. I don't know, but don't say bananas or kisses or anything, and don't say a number. Just say X. So that's my quick disclaimer. This is how you can reach me. I'm also going to give you a QR code if you want to just scan this. And I'll put this up at the end. I want to get moving here because it's already 9:41. And if you joined us at 9:38 or after, you won't get credit for this 1 hour class. You're welcome to stay and learn all kinds of fun secrets about how we do our listings and the top listing secrets that we have, but you won't get 1 hour credit. So here's the brainstorm session of the class. In order to be a phenomenal listing agent, you need to have what's called a value proposition. And when you go on listing appointments and when you're competing against other agents for a listing, sellers are going to compare various things. They're going to compare value proposition, they're going to compare price, what you charge for your services. And again, we're not going to talk about specifics, but they're going to compare value proposition. And what is value proposition? That's the value that you bring to the seller for whatever fee that you charge. And so in the chat, I'd like you guys to start brainstorming what you think is valuable to sellers. I'm trying to put this box where it's not going to interfere. So in order to express a value proposition to sellers, don't you have to press the buttons? What do sellers want from you? And I'm already seeing you guys do it. Reputation, that's reviews, right? Do they want to see a track record? Communication, a couple people have already said that. Sarah, I think you hit one of the top ones, and that's more money in their pocket. Professional marketing, how about a marketing plan? Honesty, integrity, right? Um, Exposure to potential buyers. That's a huge one. Because don't you think, guys, that a lot of listing agents, no one here, of course, but a lot of listing agents, they feel like their job is just to get the property on the market and that the rest of us do the work in bringing the buyers. So I would argue that bringing buyers is part of the listing agent's job. Expertise in the market. Thank you, Pamela. That's a good one. Now, just to remind you, keep making the list. I'm gonna pull up my list in a second. Brand recognition is interesting, Mike. It's interesting, right? Because I wonder, and you guys talk amongst yourselves about this in the chat, how important is brand? So if you're with a big national or international brand, maybe you're with that brand because you feel like that helps me. But if you're with ABC Realty that works out of Mike's house, maybe I don't feel like brand is that important. So Nathan says to his clients, the brand of the brokerage is not important. I bet that Nathan would say they care about me. They know me and they know that I do a good job. And so the name on my sign doesn't matter. Now, I would argue that there are some clients who would say, no, the brand is important to me. So I'll tell you a quick story here. Hopefully, I don't tell too many stories today because I've got a lot of material. But I went on an appointment with an expired listing. And one of the stories that the lady told me, she said, I just want people to know that my home is for sale. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, after I was on the market for about 6 months, my neighbor came over and said, hey, are you selling your house? And she was incredulous. She said, what do you mean? Am I selling my house? I've had a sign in my yard for almost 6 months. And she said, oh, I didn't recognize that sign. So I thought it was like a contractor sign or something. Maybe you had work done on your house. And so at the time, I was with a different brand that had international brand recognition. And so that always stuck with me. So, of course, now I'm at a new company that most people have never heard of. That's an objection that I have to overcome. So, guys, the reason we're making this list is that each one of us has a different value proposition. And in order for you to win more listings and impress sellers, how to you have to have a value proposition that makes sense to your audience. Okay. I just did two trainings on this. Our Tuesday trainings, I just did a buyer agent value proposition class and a seller agent value proposition class. We need to be able to make a list and convey that to our sellers. And then we have to deliver. That's the second part. So, how to sell your listings and impress sellers. So, you guys have done a great job here. Uh, and Denise, that's a great point. It may vary by area. I was driving through central Ohio and I kept seeing these mom and pop brokerages signs everywhere. So like I would drive through one town and I would only see one name, Jane Smith Realty, whatever the heck it was. And I'm like, man, Jane Smith is killing it in, you know, small town Ohio. And so it was kind of interesting. It seems like if you weren't with Jane Smith, of course I made that name up, but if you're not with her, you're not selling any houses in this town. So brand might vary. So like if you're in Cleveland, maybe people don't care that it's Mike Ferrante Realty, which I don't have my own brokerage. I'm with a company. But your value proposition is going to be different no matter where you are and what your value is. So I love the communication. Let me go to the next slide and show you the list that I made. And those of you who maybe came up with some things I didn't, good job. So here's the list I came up with. Number one is, can you sell my home, right? We listen to Tom Ferry a lot, and he has one script where he says, look, when I meet with sellers, they usually have three questions. Can you sell my home? How long is it going to take? How will you do it? The marketing plan, and how much do you charge? So it's four questions. Different scripts that we've learned, but they want to know the same things. Number one thing that they want from you is to sell their home, right? That's why they've contacted you. And somebody said they want the most in their pocket. They want the most in their pocket. And so that's why they're asking you a lot of times how much you charge. And guys, I would argue that you need to work on that script like we just did today in role play practice. Someone on the phone or when you're trying to get a listing appointment, has anyone here ever been asked the question, hey, how much do you charge? Now, don't give numbers in the chat, guys. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be guilty of breaking the antitrust rules. I want to open the chat because I'm trying to press buttons here. I'm trying to make you guys a little uncomfortable. But how do you answer that question? Hey, Suzanne, how much do you charge? Sharon says it's negotiable, which is an interesting answer, not a bad answer. But I would argue that it's negotiable sounds an awful lot like I'm going to tell you a number and it's going to be less. So Val says the same thing. I like Christopher. Christopher gets the first gold star of the day for saying X percent. Love it. Thank you for that. I don't mind the answer. Hey, it's negotiable. Let's discuss when we meet. Mike Pillow says, well, how much do you need to net? Maybe answer their question with a question. See, Christopher is like giving me the thumbs up on the on the gold star because everyone knows how valuable the gold stars are here. Did you know that the gold stars actually have cash value? Seriously. Ask me how many gold stars to a dollar. Go ahead, ask me. Right. Oh, Christopher. No, dude, two gold stars in like 2 minutes. Gold stars exactly have X dollars cash value. Awesome. You guys are fun. All right, let's get back to the list. You know how easily distracted I am. By the way, while we're chatting, and since you're all already probably through this list already, tell me, give me a no if this is your first to say, no, Mike, I've never, have you ever done a class with me before? All you yeses, I don't need to see you because you don't need to inflate my ego even more. Just give me a no. Just say first timer or no. And because I've gone on all these tangents, you're probably like, yes, this is my last class too, because you can't maintain a stream of thought. All right. But back to the thing here. Back to the thing. Having this list and knowing what sellers want is important. Can you sell, getting top dollar, sell in a reasonable amount of time? Communication. A bunch of you guys said that. How many of you have been on appointments where you heard from the seller, my last agent didn't communicate? I didn't hear from them for 30 days. And then all of a sudden they called me saying, hey, we haven't had that much showings. It's that many showings. It's time to lower the price. I only heard from them when it was time to lower the price. Now, past years, we haven't had that problem because listings have sold very quickly. But I'm telling you guys, you're going to need your skills again. Or if you're newer agents, you're going to need skills. If you got licensed in the last 5 years, you didn't have that much trouble selling your listings. Things will change. I was licensed in 2008. Anyone remember what happened in 2008? Something happened in 2008 that impacted the real estate market for about, I don't know, 5, 6 years. Oh, yeah, it was a crash, Nancy. Thank you. I had forgotten. But do you think we needed skills to sell listings from 2008 to 2012? Now, maybe it's not as bad right now, but we're starting to see longer market times. We're starting to see expiring listings. Yeah, Sharon, I did a bunch of those too. Sharon says she did foreclosures and short sales. Me too. Weird time, right? Integrity, number five. That's a huge one. When you poll sellers and ask them what they want, communication and integrity are typically in the top three. Now, how do you convey integrity? Well, you can trust me. We just did a role play today where the role play partner said, well, I don't really trust or like agents. How do you respond to that? Well, you can trust me. How do you know whether or not you can trust me? You're thinking of me as your agent. You're thinking of Sharon as your agent. How do you know if you can trust Sharon? Where would you look? Where would you look? Reviews. Thank you, Shauna. I think sometimes the chat, testimonials, reviews, maybe a list. Do any of you use a list of references? Does anyone include a list of references like, hey, here's 3, 5, 10, 100 past clients? Call them, email them. List of sales is good, Todd. People can go to Zillow and see that. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to swear. But the reviews, the past clients, and you guys talked about this in your list. That was awesome. The integrity, but it's hard for us to say, well, you can trust me. I'm different. You have to show them. And how do you show them? I have a 6-page marketing package that we use on listing appointments. 2 of the 6 pages are reviews from various websites. Really, really important. And how important is managing your online reputation? It's huge, right? Um, I would argue too, number 6, that they're not just looking for someone to come put a sign in the yard. They're looking for help with staging and home preparation, advice and referrals. I'm curious, just tell me in the chat, not a formal poll here. Tell me in the chat, how many of you purposely don't give, I'm going to say contractor recommendations because you're afraid of the consequences? Anyone here say, absolutely not. I will not give contractor recommendations because I'm afraid of the consequences. I'm afraid that the painter is going to make a mess. Janie says she does not. Pam, a lot of people are saying, no, I'm surprised. David is saying sometimes, but not often. Give them 3 and let them pick. So the give them 3 and let them pick option is interesting. And definitely when it comes to lenders, title companies, home inspectors, I'm pretty sure the Ohio code says that you're supposed to do that. But that said, those of you saying give them three and let them pick, do you know three good painters? Do you know three good handymen? I don't. I have maybe one, two, sometimes three. That's the thing, Sarah, right? I mean, Sarah gets where I'm going with this. I get the idea of give them three and let them pick, but I have a hard enough time finding one good painter. And Christopher, you're like my class. What's it? The person who puts the apple on the counter. What's the word I'm looking for? The star pupil. Christopher's like my star pupil today. What did you say? Christopher says sellers expect you. Brown nose. Yes, that's what I was looking for, Nancy. Brown nose. Christopher Brown nose. But you know what? Just for that, first of all, I'm giving Nancy a gold star and Christopher a platinum star. I'm handing out stars like they're going out of style. But seriously, I would argue those of you who say, I don't give those referrals, teacher's pet. Yes. Uh, I would argue that those of you who say, no, I don't do that, are you failing to provide one of the values that some sellers expect? And are you okay with that? I'm not here to try to persuade you, oh, you should give contractor referrals. And I use contractor as the example because that's the tricky one, right? Hey, three lenders, three title companies, three inspectors, no problem. I think I have five inspectors on my list. I think I have four or five lenders on my list. And I do that in writing, by the way, guys. Okay, little secret here. Do it in writing so that later on, if they say, well, Kathleen only gave me one inspector and I used them and they were terrible, they missed three really important things. Do it in writing. But the contractor is the tricky one. The contractor is the tricky one because I know why you guys are saying no. I don't like to do it. One time I referred a painter and he made a mess, and the client was mad at me. But number six is still a valid want, need, desire that sellers have. They want help with staging and home preparation advice and referrals. And if you don't offer that, you better have an alternative answer. Now, I saw some of you say BBB, local websites, whatever, but this is something that indeed sellers want help with. Number seven, thorough marketing plan. Give me a yes or a heck yeah or some kind of affirmation if you, listen to the whole question here, if you have a written marketing plan. Do you have a written marketing plan that you can hand to sellers? Give me a yes. Thumbs up. I like that, Steve. Absolutely 100%. If you're one of the people who's sitting there going, oof, no, or if you're brave like Daniel and actually said no, get one. Okay, this is something so simple that you could create that would now, if you're here and these other agents are here, you can move up one notch with your value proposition by simply creating a written marketing plan. And what tool is available to all of us now to help you create a written marketing plan? Come on, Pillow, if you're not the first one to answer this. Ah ha ha, AI. So listen, you guys can all hate on AI if you want. Did you see the news stories where commencement speakers, there was two different commencement speakers. One was the CEO, former CEO of Google. The former CEO of Google was a commencement speaker at a college, I forget which one, and they were booing him. The students were booing him because he was talking about, look, get on the train or don't. But the train's leaving. AI, get on it, hop on the train, go for the ride. And they started booing him essentially because half of the world right now are saying, look, AI is garbage. And college students are saying, AI is making it harder for me to find a job. It's taking away the entry level jobs, programmers, marketing assistants, blog writers. Do I need to hire a blog writer anymore? Maybe not. Little secret, I'm using Claude to write blogs. Anyway, that's part of my marketing plan though. So tangent alert AI, but doesn't AI factor in to listing secrets? How to sell your listings and impress sellers? Now you have to be careful. Since I'm talking about AI, allow me to go on my little tangent here. I just told you that 50% of the audience booed the former CEO of Google for talking about going on the AI ride. So does it stand to reason that 50% of your sellers, and Mike, teammate Mike, please listen up on this, 50% of sellers might say, AI, no way. He's just going to let AI write the description on the listing. Let AI do marketing activities that he should be doing. He should be the expert, not chat, not Claude. So here's the secret. When you're talking with your clients about AI and you say, I use AI to do a better job for you, clarify it. Say, I use AI to do some of the more mundane, repetitive tasks so that I can focus on giving you better service. I can focus on doing things like open houses, prospecting for buyers, actively doing marketing activities that AI can't do. AI does the things that it can do so that I can focus on the higher level activities to deliver a better experience to you. Do you think that those people who resist AI might be a little more open to that explanation? All right, so that's all part of the marketing plan. I have a list of questions that I give to sellers, and I say, these are the things that most sellers think are important. And I hand them that list and I give it to them ahead of time as part of my pre-listing package. How many people here know what I'm talking about and actually have a pre-listing package that they give to sellers before they meet? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. Thank you, Janie. Pre-listing package. Pamela has one. Those of you who have one, I know this is a long thing to type, but tell us just a couple things that are in your pre-listing package. A lot of you do. I'm impressed. Most people say, what's that? The pre-listing package is what you deliver to the sellers before you meet them. It helps you establish rapport. It helps you establish that you deliver this list. And I'm gesturing to my screen like you can see my screen. Your bio, your expectations, I love it. Some of the documents, I don't mind that. Hey, here's some of the documents you need: an RPD, residential property disclosure. How about the marketing plan, the written marketing plan? Brilliant, Pamela. I think the comps and market information, I think that's important too, Janie. So pre-listing package, here's what happens when you show up to the listing appointment. You've already answered 80% of the questions that they have, and you can get to the good stuff. I saw that list of comps that you provided. I think our house is like this one. You've already had 80% of the price conversation because you've sent them a pre-listing package. Have you sold homes in my area? My pre-listing package includes a map of sales. I've already given that to them. There's dots all over the map around Cleveland Heights, around Euclid. I've already answered the question, do you sell homes in my area? I want to throw this out there because there were a couple newer agents here on this call today. And if you're a newer agent, I mean, if you're experienced, have you sold homes in my area? Of course I have. I've sold hundreds of homes. Our team has sold thousands of homes. But if you're a newer agent, how do you answer the question, how many homes have you sold? Have you sold homes in my area? How many? So could you lean on team numbers? Could you lean on brokerage numbers? My office has, right, Val? And Val, could you take that a step further and create a map of sales for ABC Realty's sales in my area? If you don't have this, I would highly recommend putting it together. Now, Sarah says no, but my teammates have. That would beg the question to me, well, then maybe I should be talking to your teammates if you haven't. So I know what you're saying, Sarah. Yes, you lean on the team numbers, you lean on the brokerage numbers, but frame that answer in a way that they still have confidence in you. Yeah, Solange says yes. Uh, we have sold. We have sold X number. I like that answer. I mean, as a new agent, you can't lie and say, "Oh yeah, sure, I have." Okay, number 7 is the marketing plan with pre-listing package. Number 8, high quality photos. I'm going to show you a couple examples, not from our market, local expertise. You guys all got that one. A fair commission. I mean, they expect to pay you something, right? But there's all ranges of fees, right? There's MLS only packages where you pay a flat fee. And again, no numbers, but do you want it? Do you want to compete on the amount of your fee is the question you should be asking. based on your value proposition. And if you'd want to, that's okay. I remember back in the day, anyone remember 2100 Realty? This, I'm like dating myself here. I wasn't even licensed. Anyone remember 2100 Realty? There were a couple long-term agents here in the group. Remember 21? I mean, in their company name, that's what they charged. And I just said, hey, let's not say numbers, but this was the company name. And back when things were typically percentages, they said 2100. Yeah, exactly, Sharon. That was their name of their company. But anyway, so a fair commission, they want help with paperwork. Some of you guys talked about sending them paperwork. If you're going to visit for sale by owners, is it not a good idea to say, hey, are you familiar with the paperwork you need? Do you have a residential property disclosure filled out? Oh, you don't know what that is? Let me bring you one. Is that a good way to get an appointment with a FISBO? They want help with paperwork and assistance in negotiation. That was my list, guys. I think you got any of these. If you said an answer and it's not on this list, throw it in the chat. Okay. If you said an answer that is not on this list, throw it in the chat because I want to add to my list. All right, let's hit the next slide because we're going to run out of time here today, as happens every time. All right. If you're going to do a good job as a listing agent, do you not need to know where buyers find their homes? If I'm a seller, let me change gears here. I love analogies. You guys know that about me? I love analogies. And one of my favorite analogies is fishing. I don't fish. Mike Pillow and Apple Valley Lake fishes, if you can imagine that. Went out on his boat once. Got to do that again this summer, Mike, as we keep saying. Really going to happen this year, though. But if I'm a fisherman and I charter a fishing captain, I want to know that that captain knows where the fish are biting. And if they're not biting here, oh, we'll go over here today. Or you want to fish for smallmouth bass? Well, we're going to go here. Oh, you want to fish for walleye? I think they stock walleye in Apple Valley Lake, but if I'm going to fish for walleye, I'm probably going out on Lake Erie and I'm going trolling. But my dad used to hate trolling because he felt like there was no skill in it. So we used to go to a place called the Bubble and fish for smallmouth bass. Anyone know what that is? Or am I like totally boring you with fishing stories? Point is, if I'm a good fishing boat captain, good charter captain, I need to know where the fish are biting. If you're going to be a good listing agent, you need to know where the buyers are biting. And so we know that online is the number one place. Really, no comments about fishing. I rambled for 60 seconds about fishing, and I can't get someone to say, Mike, shut up about fishing, or yes, I fish. Bubble, okay, we fished for smallmouth, Chris. But anyway, I thought for sure I'd get you guys to have some kind of comments about fishing. Anyway, you got to know where the fish are biting. So knowing this information, and when a seller says, well, hey, are you going to advertise in the local paper? Are you going to stand with one of those signs, the arrow signs, and spin it on the corner and say, house for sale? You know, are you equipped to tell people, tell sellers what marketing methods really work? Okay, you need to know these numbers. All right, so let's get to the marketing stuff because I want to share with you some marketing essentials to reach more fish. I'm sorry, buyers. So, number one on our list, we had photos. So, this is from Atlanta. I went outside of our market. This is probably one of those REO or short sale properties, but how would you feel as a seller if this were your main photo on your listing? So, let's talk about photos just for a second. I found the worst one I could get. I mean, and yeah, Tiara says very politically correctly, not pleased. Puke emoji. I love it. You guys are awesome. This is probably the best class I've had in a long time. Someone bringing up Harmon Homes. This is awesome. This is why I do this, by the way, guys. First of all, I love giving back. You know, I've done a lot of sales, worked with a lot of people, and I love giving back to you guys. But I kind of have fun doing this. Really have fun doing this because of you guys. So thank you. Thank you for participating today. But let's talk about it. So love them or hate them. And there's all this stuff in the news now, the battle between Compass and Zillow. You're like, I just say enough. When does the agent get to have a voice? But Zillow is still the number one website. Did you see that the Chicagoland MLS has already put all the listings back? So it's going to be interesting how that shakes out. But the bottom line is that buyers are going to go online to look for houses, whether it's Zillow or Realtor.com or abcrealty.com or your website, and they're going to look by different criteria. And one of the criteria is the photos. So I'm going to get to the MLS criteria in a couple minutes because I guarantee you guys are doing a few things wrong on your listings. And this is something you can talk about as part of your value proposition with sellers. Okay. I promise you that you're doing at least one or two of these things wrong. But Mike, I've been using the MLS for years. Surely I know how to fill in a bunch of blanks. You're doing it wrong. All right. I'll come back to that. Photos. So they do a search, right? Price, bedrooms, bathrooms, areas, square footage, maybe. And then they have a list. And what do they see? The main photo on every single listing. Now, in our MLS, and your rules might be different, but in our MLS, the first photo has to be a front photo of the property. So shouldn't that number one photo, if all I'm seeing is one photo that's going to make me decide yes or no, click or don't click to look at that listing, that first photo has to be spectacular. We just had our Hinckley listing. Marla, you saw it. That front photo, I had a drone photo looking at this house on a hill, and it was the bomb. I mean, I told the photographer what I wanted. And by the way, I paid $1,300 for those videos and those photos of that house because it was our highest listing ever, second highest. And I knew I needed spectacular photos. So I told him, when you shoot the drone, I want this. I want this. And that photo made people click and then they looked at the rest. Now, I'm going to talk a little more about photos. And again, I know you're sitting there like, Mike, we know about photos. Why are you talking so much about photos? Because I think there's a best way to do it. So, front photo, the best one. But I always want multiple photos of the front. And why do I do that? What if your listing doesn't sell right away? As buyers go through these lists that they generate either from the MLS or from third-party websites, if they see that same front photo after the third week on the market, after the fourth week, they look at that and go, yep, already looked at that one. That's been sitting there a while. Wouldn't it be nice to have several front photos? Yeah, Tori, 1,300. Wouldn't it be nice to have several front photos to swap it to? So that at least when they go through that list, maybe even after a price reduction, price improvement, Lauren, I've seen you do that, price improvement. Uh, After something like that, there's a different front photo. Oh, I'm going to swap it from this angle to this angle. And then at least it catches their eye because the buyers go, oh, wait a minute. Oh, that is that house. Multiple front photos and swap them out from time to time. Now, more photo stuff. Your next three photos are so important. So a lot of people say, well, Mike, I do 4 front photos, the backyard, the this, the that, or I do the foyer and then the living room, as though you're walking through the house. I'm not against that, but I would argue that is wrong. Pause for dramatic effect. I would argue that your next 3 photos should be the next 3 best photos of the house. If you've got a pool with a waterfall feature. Yes, Meredith, exactly. From one experienced agent to another. High five. High fives, Meredith, by the way, are uh, without price. I mean, they're priceless. You cannot exchange high fives for dollars. You cannot sell them. You'd have to sell it on the black market. So there you go. You must capture their interest with the next 3 photos. So if you've got a pool with a waterfall, and I'm thinking of my Hinckley listing, if you've got a spectacular foyer with this massive chandelier that must have cost $10,000 plus, if you have an amazing kitchen, if you have a great room with a fireplace, if you have some feature in the backyard, if you have a pond, those next 3 photos, I would argue, should be your next 3 best photos. Now, from there, I love the idea of your photos being like a tour through the house. Okay, foyer, front room, dining room, blah, 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 blah. And people can kind of go through it as though they're walking through the house. Matterport, your 3D tours, I get it. They're cool. A lot of sellers expect them. I'm not a fan. Have you guys ever taken the time to try to click through a Matterport tour? And I'm not against Matterport. I just don't love the, like it feels tedious to me. And then I'm taking my mouse and I'm trying to move the mouse and look up and down. I would argue video, but we'll get to video in a second. How about mechanicals? How about basement? I've had agents tell me, Mike, why do you include a picture of the furnace? Why do you include a picture of the electric panel? Now, in Hinckley, I didn't, okay, because I had 49 other photos that were way, way better. But, we sell a lot of lower priced homes too. I have a $140,000 listing in South Euclid right now. Okay, I'm not like plugging my listing. I'm trying to like tell you in that house, I have a Federal Pacific panel. Everyone know about Federal Pacific panels? This is an investor property. Do you think an investor, excuse me, cares to know that right, they're a fire hazard? I want a close up of the roof if I'm an investor. I want to see the furnace, the water tank. I want to see all four sides of the house. The garage is leaning a little bit. So I know a lot of agents would argue, well, we don't want to show the bad photos. We don't want to show things that make the house look bad. Sorry, guys, my laptop's not charging here. Oh, yes, it is. Okay. Uh, Include photos of everything. Now, maybe the bad photos go toward the end because you want the good photos at the front. I was just watching an episode of The Office. Anyone like The Office where Dwight Schrute says, he's arranging the photo and he says, well, I want you and you and you in front, just like the beats. We put the good beats in front of the sales cart and the ugly beats in the back. Any Office fans? Come on. So the photos are so important and the order of the photos. So let me change slides. You're probably bored. So you know what good photos look like. By the way, guys, if you are taking photos with your phones, do you take your photos like this or like this? I'm not in favor of iPhone or Droid photos, but the camera on these is pretty amazing. And, I just told you I spent 1,300 on a really nice listing. If I have a lower price listing, take your photos like this, please. No bigger giveaway that you took cell phone photos than this. You can tell when the photos are done like that. At least turn your phones this way, please. We have photographers that are as low as like 100 to 150 bucks. That's right. Thank you, Meredith. We do some lower price stuff, so I'm not going to pay $150 for professional photos of a house that's like filled with debris. I'm sorry, I'm going to take pictures with my iPhone. So photos and then video. In lieu of the Matterport tours, the click-through tours that a lot of you agreed with me. Thank you for agreeing with me, by the way. I feel vindicated. How about a video tour? And maybe even take the next step, a professionally produced video tour. That's why my photos were $1,300 on that. Not only did we do photos, drone, but we produced 4 videos from that package. So yeah. Okay. Excuse me. All right, so guys, I want to just share with you something kind of kitschy that I've heard before and I regurgitated this. The difference between a listing agent, the way the public thinks of us, this is what they think we do, unless we educate them otherwise. They think of the 3 Ps. We put it in the MLS, we put up a sign, and then we pray for the phone to ring. So I know that joke has already sailed because I had the slide up. I would argue that sellers have higher expectations now. Hey, I could do this. I could make a sign. I could get myself in the MLS with a flat fee. And then I could sit there and pray for the phone to ring. So here's what my new 4 Ps of marketing are. Feel free to rip this off. I don't care. You can use it. In fact, I'd be flattered if you did. You don't even have to give me credit. How about this for the Ps of marketing? Preparation. Even if you don't give the referrals, guys, and look, like I said, I'm not trying to convince you, oh, you better have 3 painters to give, or you should give at least 1 contractor recommendation. I'm not here to try to persuade you of that. I'm here to try to persuade you that sellers count on their agent for a lot of stuff, and part of your value proposition could be helping them prepare the home for sale. And that could be, hey, either do it yourself or find a contractor on Thumbtack or Angie's List or wherever. Go on Facebook, ask your friends for referrals. Who did they have paint their house? Do they have a cleaning person? Do they have a landscaper? You got a lot of weeds in your front yard. When I pulled up to your home, the first thing I noticed was how beat up your beds are. Do you have a landscaper? Are you willing to do some preparation to get more money and sell your house faster? It's a great way to ask that question, right? I had a listing once where showed up with a teammate at the listing, and I could tell the people didn't want to lift a finger. They said, well, the last agent that came said that we had to strip all this wallpaper and that we had to paint everything. And I said, that's interesting. I said, do you want to do any of that work? Well, no, we don't want to do any of that. We just want to sell our house. And I said, okay. So what you really want is the as is value without doing this work, because you could do this work and get more. You could spend this much money, you could do it yourself and get this price, or as is, you could get this price. Guys, selling your listings and impressing your sellers is all about delivering what they want. Yeah, well, Mary, the buyer doesn't want to do that work either, but some buyers will pay a lower price and do it. That's me. I'm that buyer. I want to pay a lower price and get some instant equity. I want the sweat equity, but delivering what they want. So asking them, hey, do you want to hear about some things that you could do to your home, your property, to make it sell for more? And this applies everywhere. This applies to property management. If I have any property managers in the house, what's your value proposition? Could you charge a little more for delivering a higher value proposition to some of your clients? Or do you do the bare minimum and charge less? It's the same for commercial. I would argue, you commercial agents, if you're not walking into a property and saying, hey, are you trying to maybe get a higher price for this property, a higher price per foot? What if you painted the place? What if you changed out some of these fixtures? The tenants are responsible for the electric bill. What if you changed all the lights to LEDs? I'm going through that right now with our new office. We're opening a new office in Solon, and I'm looking at the electric bill going, dang, maybe I should change all these lights to LEDs. So it's all about adding value, preparing the property for sale. Most of our audience here is residential, so I talk about houses a lot, but this could apply to any aspect of real estate. The second of the 4 Ps, promoting effectively. Placing it in the MLS and letting the third-party websites do their work is not enough. So one of the questions on my list that I give to sellers and say, ask other agents this question is this. And I want you guys just think for a second, really open your mind and think about this question. How would you answer it? I'm Mr. Seller, and I say to you, all right, Donna, apart from putting it in the MLS, it going to third-party websites, and all the things that happen automatically, what else do you do to promote my property effectively? What else? If you can't answer that question, you might be in trouble. You might not be impressing your sellers. All right, number 3, pricing correctly. Oh, but Zillow said. I keep swearing. I just can't help myself. But Zillow said. But this third-party portal said. The other agent said. Excuse me. Can you price correctly? Or is your value proposition that you tell a seller a higher price so that you can get a price reduction later, just so you can get your sign in the yard? It's a valid question, right? You know what? The other agent said less. Why are you saying more? Well, I think they're leaving money on the table. I think we can price it higher. I'm going to show you something interesting on price here in a second. But anyway, number 4 of my new 4 Ps is actively prospect for buyers. I would argue that, yeah, buying a listing, but I would argue that actively prospecting for buyers is a value proposition that you could add to the mix if you choose to make that part of yours. All right, let me just show this to you real quick. Move a couple boxes here so you guys can see. This is from Zillow. I like using Zillow for my seller updates, which, by the way, the weekly seller update, that, what did we say? Communication is something that sellers wanted. Do you give me a yes in the chat if you do at least a weekly seller update. So this is something I like to use to show the sellers activity on one portal. And this happens to be the biggest one. It's the number of saves, views. It shows the last 30 days. This is also kind of a fun one because, and I screenshot this on purpose because this is typical. This is that bell curve. Friday feedback. I do the same thing, Lauren, every Friday. Every seller gets some kind of update from me. By the way, why do we do it on Fridays, Lauren? She calls it Friday feedback. Why do you do it on the same day of every week, Lauren? She's typing, oh, I know the answer. I want to. But while she's typing, the bell curve, consistency, because they know it's coming. So Lauren says, so they know it's coming. Mary says consistency. Exactly. Exactly. This keeps them from reaching out to you on Wednesday. When they reach out to you on Wednesday, call, text, email, hey, Val, what's going on with my listing? What do they think you've been doing if they're reaching out to you? What do they think you've been doing, Val? If they're reaching out to you saying, what's going on with my nothing. Silver star for Kate, because that was an easy one. That's right. They think you've been doing nothing, sleeping, waiting for the phone to ring. So telling them what day your update is coming and then delivering it consistently on that day tells them exactly what you're doing. So my weekly updates consist of here's what happened, William. Here's what happened. Here's what we did to make that happen. Here are the results from everything that we did. And then here's what we think we should do next week. When I ask for a price reduction, which is fairly rare, but it happens, my sellers are not blindsided because I've already laid the groundwork for it. Hey, last week we talked about if this, this, and this does or doesn't happen, we might think about a price change of this or this. And then next week I say, well, here's everything I did. Here were the results. This didn't happen. Those buyers didn't come back. We didn't see any offers. In fact, we only had one showing. The market is telling us that our price is a little high. As we discussed the last 1 or 2 weeks, we should adjust the price by this much. Okay. Your sellers want you to drive the bus. It drives me crazy when I hear stories like this. Well, Mike, our last listing agent, we were on the market for 30 days and I called them and said, hey, do you think it's time to lower the price? And can you imagine this conversation in your head? That listing agent was probably like, whew, they asked me if it was time to lower the price. Thank God. I knew it was time to lower the price, but I was afraid to ask them. Guys, we can't be afraid as listing agents. Don't be one of those agents where the seller has to reach out to you and say, is it time to lower the price? Also, do the regular updates. Otherwise, they think you're doing nothing. So back to my graph. Typical bell curve, right? Starts out like gangbusters, online activity and typically showings, and it drops, 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 drops. Guess what happened here? Anyone know what happened here on day 25? Price change. Christopher, teacher's pet. I've never given 4 stars to one person in a class, but there you go, Christopher. Price change. So this is my evidence. This is what happens. I show the sellers this. I say, look, this was day 25. You get a bump in activity from a price change, and I can prove it. All right, I'm going to show you a couple of really cool things on pricing. In fact, let me do a poll. You're probably sitting there going like, Mike, we haven't had enough polls. Give me another poll. And bear with me. I might run 1 or 2 minutes long. Okay, here's the poll question. What is the best list price for a property worth around 200K? The choices are 198, 888. That sounds cool, probably eye-catching. 199.9, 200,000 even, or 210,000. Now, as you guys ponder that poll question, I'm going to show you something. Okay, so not only does the human brain tend to think in round numbers, but the third-party websites do as well. And so this search is a screenshot I did on Zillow in the Atlanta area. I didn't want to pick on anybody. But basically, it's a search of 200 to 300,000. They force you, the sites force you into these. In fact, your agents force buyers into these kind of price ranges. Hey, Mike, I'm pre-approved for 250. I want to see 200 to 300 in my area, 3 bedrooms or more, et cetera, et cetera. And what do? We put in 200 to 300. So if I price my property worth around 200,000 at 198,888 or 199,900. Does this buyer see that listing? No. So I'm here to tell you guys, big secret number 12 or whatever I'm on now, pricing with the 199 or 99.9 method is just flat out wrong. And I will argue this with you till the end of time. It's not cute. It doesn't sound better to buyers because honestly, if there's two houses, one's 199 and the other's 200, do you think anyone's really in their living room talking about it going, well, honey, the other one's $1,000 cheaper. We should go after that one. No one is having that conversation. I guarantee it. Or my name is an Orville. No, wrong commercial. Seriously though, pricing in round numbers is the way to go. Now, how about the 210? And of you who said that, again, I would argue over 10 grand, you're missing everyone who's cutting their searches off at that round number. So, quick pricing lesson. There's only one right answer to this poll question, in my opinion, and it's 200,000 even. Let me get off my soapbox now. Okay, so that's the pricing one. Real quick here, I wanted to show you something kind of interesting. This is a screenshot of the MLS. I want to show you, first of all, I do my searches when I do buyers 149 because I know there's agents out there pricing at 149.9. So this is a 150 to 200 search, active single families. And guys, I use school district. I just saw this last night. I was looking at listings for a client who said, hey, how about this one? And it's a certain city up here in my area, and it's listed as Cleveland, but it's not Cleveland. It's actually Highland Heights. So I search by school districts typically, even if they don't care about the schools. So here's a school district search, Euclid. And somewhere here is the number of hits. I don't see it. I think it was 29. I think it's cut off on my screen. So you have to trust me on this. So then I did the comparable search on the next screen. Oh, here it is right here. So I do that search by school district, same exact criteria, 29. Then I change it to city, Euclid. And how many hits? 27. Why? Because on the previous one, look, Cleveland, and there's a second Cleveland here somewhere. The point is, there it is right there. The point is that using different criteria can help you generate more hits. And as a listing agent, so as a buyer's agent, use school district. As a listing agent, the reason this happens is because you're using the parcel number, realist, to populate your listings. The county record says Cleveland 44119. And in your areas, I guarantee there are areas that say that. Well, I'm in this township, but it comes up as Mount Vernon. So I'm just going to say Mount Vernon. If you don't have the township in there or have both, there's a city and a township field. Guys, you need to know these fields and how to populate them in the most effective way. So it's cities, it's bathrooms, it's square footage. See this one right here and this one right here? There's no square footage filled in. I would argue that the listing agent messed up. What if this house is 1,400 square feet and I'm a buyer searching for 1,300 square feet or more? This house comes up as 0. All right, guys, I'm out of time. So let me do this. There's my QR code if you want to scan it. I'm going to launch one final poll question. If you have questions, please right now go to the Q&A, drop them in the Q&A. Let me launch my final poll question, and it's about the certificates. Ooh, I need to update this poll question. I just remembered. Hold on. Here it is. Okay. So this is slightly different, but the point will be made. To receive my CE certificate, I should call, text, email Mike daily until I get it. Always one joker. It's probably Christopher. But anyway, call, text, Mike, email daily till I get it. That's not the right answer. Just wait 2 to 3 days to receive it by email. Remember, we're going to send you a link. You'll go into the Google Drive folder and pick up your certificate with your name and license number on it. I like to do things the right way. Blank certificates are not the right way. I learned. Or choice 3, I'm not sure, I wasn't paying attention. But seriously, 2 to 3 days, we're going to send you those certificates via Google Drive link. If you absolutely can't figure out how to retrieve it from Google Drive, just email us back. My assistant, Ronnie, will be on that email. Just say, hey, I cannot get that certificate. Can you please email it to me? And she will handle that. Whew, I really need to make that a 2 hour class. But so guys, if you have to run, no problem. However, I'm going to go into the Q&A and answer any questions you have. So drop those there. If you have to run, hit me up anytime, please. I love to talk real estate. I'm at a point in my career where I just love giving back, helping agents with questions and problems. And by all means, if you are interested in talking about the big move that I made and the team and what that looks like and all the great benefits, I always wanted to have a cap, and now I have one. And I always wanted to have extremely low fees. And so I've taken my team to a platform where I get all that really, really cool stuff. But let me open the Q&A, see if anyone has questions. If you have to run, great seeing all of you. And I'm not just saying this, your interaction today made my day. Only 2 questions. So if you guys have to run, I'll see you soon. Here's the one question I have. Actually, one's just a comment. Oh, there's another one. Okay, first one. How do you deal with a homeowner who wants a higher price than reality, comps, area, etc.? Such a good question. So we talked about it. Someone used the term buying a listing. Oh, you want to list for this much, even though I know the value is not there. I think there's a couple different ways to handle this. My teammates and I have talked about this. We've taken listings that we know are too high, and we thought, well, maybe. And so having that conversation, we have to educate, right? But it's been a crazy market. I have to be honest and say I've underestimated some. So I think that you, as an agent, have to decide what your threshold is. If you think it's worth 200,000 and they want to list it 220, 225, and you think maybe, I think it's all about setting expectations. So you say, okay, we're going to do this, but here's what we're going to watch: the views, the saves, the showings, the feedback. And we're going to evaluate quickly and maybe pose a question. Hey, Donald, you don't want to be on the market for 30 days and not have any offers and have buyers start to question what's wrong with the house. I usually let them answer that question. I say, hey, Donald, if we're on the market for 30 days, what do you think buyers in this market start to think? Why isn't it selling? What's wrong with it? Hey, they might be ready for a lowball offer. The sellers usually know the answer to that question, and it's even more powerful when they say it. Hey, you're also looking for a home. When you see a home that's on the market for 30 days in this market, when homes are selling for 10 in 10 days, what do you think when you see that home that's on the market for 30 or 45 days? Well, I think it's an opportunity. I can make a lower offer. What's wrong with it? Exactly. So we don't want to make that same mistake, right? So flip the script, educate, show them comps. At the end of the day, everybody thinks their baby's cute. So they think their house is awesome. But my house has this. My house has 5 acres. All these other houses only have 1 acre. Land's worth $50,000 an acre. My house should be worth $200,000 more, right? You have to educate me on how acreage is not incremental. Yeah, but if I had 100 acres, does that mean I have a $5 million home? No. Okay. Um, Jennifer's asking about information on difficult to sell homes and vacant land. Quick hitter here, Jennifer. How about if it's vacant land, selling it 2 ways? Vacant land and how about a to be built home? Talk to some builders, talk to the seller, see if they'd be willing to offer a to be built home on the lot. Could generate some more activity. Difficult to sell homes, I'm going to say unique homes. You have to really open the toolbox on your marketing plan, right? Really try to reach people in a different way. So, just using one example, how about an equestrian property, horse property? Could you do some targeted marketing through a platform like Facebook, like Google, that targets people with equestrian interests? Could you advertise on those websites? There are really specific websites for those types of needs. It's no different with commercial. We have to belong to LoopNet and CoStar and Crexy. We pay for all those memberships because if I'm going to try to do commercial and I just put it in the MLS, I'm reaching a fraction of the commercial buyers. Now, my value proposition when I list a commercial property is that, hey, we do both. So wouldn't you want to be both on LoopNet and the MLS? That's my value proposition. Looks like the last question here. Does Acreage add value? And and is a pool a bad feature? So Marla, I'm going to answer your question this way. I'll start with the pool. In Ohio, appraisers often don't assign a plus or a minus to pools, and that's because they're usable for such a short time. Have you ever had a buyer who said, "Ooh, a pool, great"? Or have you ever had a buyer who said, "Ooh, a pool, really didn't want a pool. That's an expense to me now because I need to get rid of the pool, or I'm just going to go buy a different house because I don't want to deal with a pool." So the pool here in Ohio is really hit or miss, and appraisers don't assign much, if any, value. The acreage thing is interesting too, because don't you have buyers who say, "Oh, I need an acre or more"? But don't you also have other buyers who say, "I want a small yard or no yard to maintain"? So again, you have to look at the features of the property and market to those features. Find the buyers, find where the fish are biting. I'm going to bring it full circle and talk about fishing. Identify the features, the type of fish that you're fishing for based on the features, and then go to those areas to fish. So typically, yes, acreage adds to value, but that's also going to eliminate some buyers. Now, if I'm a buyer who doesn't want the maintenance and 4 of the 5 acres are wooded, you think it's important to talk about, hey, 5 acres, but 4 of them are wooded, no maintenance. So in general, yes, acreage adds value, just like square footage adds value. But oh, that home's 5,000 square feet. What am I going to do with all that? I don't need all that. Next. So every home is not for everyone. Every property is not for everyone. You have to identify the features, figure out which buyers would be interested in it, and market to those buyers. That's a wrap. All right, guys, I'm out. Thank you so much for being here. If you need me, it's Mike at 21mike.com or click that link. I'm going to save the chat and we'll get to work this weekend on getting those certificates prepared. And I hope to see you all soon. Again, follow on Facebook, 21 Mike Team, if you want to know about future classes. Thanks, everybody. Wonderful participation today. I really appreciate all of you.